Hi everyone. Sorry, I think I was muted at first. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to meet everyone here, and this is an opportunity. I'm so very happy to see how you have gone far and now doing a lot of things with a lot of Africans here, which is a very good advantage for youth in general. Should I just continue, or I only introduce myself for now?
Yeah, no, jump on in for the session, and I know you've got some slides prepared. So however you want to take the time, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. I would prefer to just speak and then possibly have the opportunity to have an interactive session. So my name is Desmond Aluna, co-founder for Green Africa Youth Organization, which is a youth-led gender balance organization that is driving climate change, disaster risk reduction, and circular economy in Africa. So for us, our journey is more like very natural sort of journey, and I would like to share a bit of how the whole process has been, and then now chip in at the moment what is happening in general with the situation in Ghana and some few other countries where we work. So as I mentioned, as a youth-led gender balance organization, I think the first thing was that we were able to recognize what the problem is. And pretty much, unfortunately, the same problem exists today, where you have pollution all over from the waste industry, from the mining or extractive industry, because also in Ghana, almost every land is fertile for one mineral or the other, and then also for the other industry of timber, where there's a lot of logging. And so we started as an advocacy group focusing on coastal communities and also focusing on communities that were living with forest or some form of natural resources, as we educated them on environmental justice and educated them on how to actually practice sustainable handling and disposal of waste as well. What I'm seeing across the region today in terms of similarity is the fact that we have a lot of young people who are still stuck at the very time of the time they are supposed to be able to discover themselves. They still face these kind of problems where they end up trying to solve, but then there are so many limitations because now we have more oppressive governments than you could imagine in terms of advocacy and other things. Fast forward, we did a number of advocacy on these thematic areas, but then we now realize that, okay, let's talk about cleanups, for example, brand audits. Is it paying? Is it really the solution? Or this is just another way of getting along the message, So we decided to go into actual implementation of projects, right? Actual implementation of projects here means that we actually go in working with communities and handling the situation and providing solutions, brokering solutions at community level, rather than only limiting ourselves to the advocacy aspect. So we established the Sustainable Community Project, which is now in 4 municipalities in Ghana, 1 municipality in Mali, another in Uganda, and then in Kenya. And the whole focus was to be able to institute a zero waste mechanism where people are able to generate revenue from their waste that they generate. And the reason was that since we're talking about single-use plastics and people are not seeming to get the formula that quick, when you start talking about how to generate revenue from your waste, and people are realizing that there are a lot of components of the waste they generate that they are not able to make any money from, they would understand why single-use plastics are not really relevant. So we started doing that, and we instituted this particular project, which is also converting a lot of organics into compost. The first plant currently converts 2,000 kilograms of compost fertilizer in that particular facility. And we have 3 of these. So people are understanding that when your organic waste is segregated at source and it's clean enough, you can produce this. You can establish your backyard garden. You can produce your own cabbage and other vegetables at home with the little land you have, with the waste you are generating. But that is only if it is clean, if it is segregated from other forms of waste like plastics. Then we are also producing the recycled art, which is like producing raincoats, shower curtains, school bags for students and all that from plastics. And the amazing thing is that we managed to get young people doing this and not anybody who is already having the capital. The reason is to demonstrate that young people are limited in various ways. You are limited in credibility, you are limited in visibility, you are limited in financial resources. So you have to use the most basic tool that you can use to fight environmental injustice. You can use to fight climate change, but also creating your own source of income. Also, and then the same project is producing charcoal briquettes from hard to degrade agricultural waste. And we managed to scale this. Now, along the value chain of waste, we managed to get at every stage and put in young people what you can do, how you can stand out. And that's how come the youth climate, the eco clubs come in, which is now what you have come to know also. And we also establish and host the Youth Climate Council, which is the governing body for youth conversations around climate change, because we realize that this is another channel to sort of make sure that you mainstream youth inclusion and youth engagement into climate discussions at global level. So how best can you do that if youth are not having some form of coordinated approach where you are able to gather all the knowledge at country level? At this secretariat now, which we are hosting, and the secretariat works with the EPA, which is the UNFCCC focal point in Ghana, and then mainstreaming whatever they collect. So it mimics the whole UNFCCC system where we have regional focal points. So a country is divided into different regions, and each region has a focal point, and the focal point undertake convenings, and then the result of that is sent to the secretariat. The secretariat collect all these results from the policy briefings, the documents the focal points have, the regions have developed, and then summarize that for the government. So if it is the national adaptation planning, if it's the NDCs, if it is the global stocktake process, young people also have their own mechanism of how they mainstream youth they see youth inclusion and youth engagement happening, or how the document should reflect this aspect. And then it is mainstreamed into this. And then we the whole hope is that in general, multiple countries get to do this, because now we are forming the Global Alliance for Youth Climate Councils. So multiple countries coming with similar requests will show that there's a reason that young people consistently talking about, say, the future of jobs, talking about climate anxiety or something, and that would get our voices into where we want them to be. So that's another thing that Gaio is doing. But then on the other side, we also do projects on the climate change phase, where we are providing water for high-risk regions, communities that are finding it difficult to have access to drinking water, have access for water for irrigation or agriculture. We're providing water for those communities, because there are communities that even in the rainy season, they still face drought throughout, and so they are consistently not having access. It is consistently dry. So you need to find alternatives for such communities. Now, we try to make sure that young people are at the forefront of this, because we are youth-led and gender-balanced organization. So what we do is making sure that youth understand and broker the solutions that we want to use as demonstration for governments to absorb. And so in each of these projects and communities, we make sure that young people get some appreciable level of understanding on how to implement a climate change project and how to carry out a message in a manner that you can measure and in a manner that you can create an impact. I'm spending more time just talking about the work we are doing, because I'm assuming that we may have some time to interact and delve deeper into other aspects that may be necessary based on the moderator's intention for this meeting. So I'm going to end here and then see what is next. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Desmond. I know lots of folks will have some questions. I have a few as well, but I'll hold back a little bit. But yeah, initial responses, questions, thoughts on what Desmond shared for what Gaia's been doing and why they do it.
I really liked everything that you said. I took quite a bit of notes. That you were very inspirational. I guess I have a ton of questions, but I'll just pick one to not take all of your time. But I really liked what you said about creating a measurable impact. So I know this program has been going on for a little bit. What are some examples of things that are, I guess youth-centered, that are impacts that are measurable, that you can take to the government or what have you to try to promote change of behaviors?
So it's on the different thematic areas. So I take, for example, the waste aspect. We've conducted a number of, say, brand audits, trying to get the understanding of where is the plastic waste, for example, coming from, how much of this potentially end up in the sea, and what does that mean in terms of if we want to apportion responsibility, for example. We've produced data which is purely done by the young people who have been conducting these brand audits. We've sort of targeted certain brands in the past, trailing them and talking to them about what they are doing and how the waste end up at the shore and why this is not accepted. And now this data, now at the moment, we are supporting the National Plastic Action Partnership Secretariat, the NPAP. Ghana is one of the NPAP countries. We are supporting this particular secretariat to define problematic plastics. And basically, we are basing on the knowledge of the consistent production of data through global brand audits and our country brand audits that we have been doing, which the youth have been leading. So in this case, government is hoping that we are able to define, based on what we have, what is problematic plastic and recommend which plastics should be banned and which ones should be moderated. And that is a point where I felt young people have power. That's a point where I felt like for once, somebody is looking up to young people for information, because the young people have that ability to do some things at minimal cost, which is still really, really relevant. So that is one of the things. And then the other thing is also around the policy stream. For example, prior to COP, the Youth Climate Council produced a lot of information which supported the government. And what happened was that because they had a regional system that they were doing, they were able to have access to the various communities that have direct impact or that are facing direct impact of climate change. So when they are making contribution, they are making contribution based on the reality of life and not just scientific estimates, not people who are, quote unquote, living in the cities and probably not having the direct exposure of what is happening. And so you see the point where youth, by way of the work we are doing, we're able to produce information and make sure that that information is reliable and government can use it.
Who else wants to jump in? Well, while other folks are thinking about questions, let me ask one that's a follow-up to what you just mentioned about youth having power, because one of the big themes that we'll be thinking about over the coming weeks and coming months, as we kind of transition from learning about issues to trying to start projects or social enterprises to address them. What do you see as kind of a broader set of pieces of advice that you can give for youth to start taking action? What are the ways that you think they have power or should try to get power to start taking action, kind of as an expanded answer to what you just shared?
Yeah, I think one of the ways is, first of all, informing yourself and getting together. I think when I take, for example, the youth that are doing things related to waste management, for example, those who are picking waste on the street, those who are working on the dam sites in Africa, collecting waste, it started with sensitizing them and bringing them to form cooperatives. And then they sort of began to have a voice, because at the beginning, they were facing different forms of repressive behavior from city authorities. But then when they formed cooperatives and they started having coordinated work and making demands, they are able to get integrated into government schemes at the district level. So I think that as a young person, understanding that you and everybody else within your age group has the same or will be impacted by this same phenomenon of climate change, maybe differently, but you will all be impacted. And so you have to ask people who want to safeguard your future and not as individuals. I think that point could also be the beginning of giving you power, because it is a point where you begin to also learn from your colleagues their own understanding of the problem and whatever strategy of approach makes the most sense. And then I think the other thing is also believing in yourself. If I give an example of the work we have done so far, we never had the resources, actually. We just had to do what we thought is right with limited resources. And there were many times that you are not recognized, you are not able to access certain platforms because you are youth and you do not hold any power. But then it is a process. That's the thing. You have to understand it's a process. So with time, you would introduce yourself properly to the system. With time, you understand how the dynamics work. And that is the turning point where you begin to get a listening ear. So it wouldn't be a silver bullet answer as in this is what you need to do as a young person, but then understanding that you being informed of you yourself having a good understanding of what the problem is and having the power of your colleagues around you is a starting point.
Thank you. Let's get another question from the audience here. Let's see, and then we got one question from the chat. Maybe we can bundle these together. So question about compost and what Gaio does with it. But yeah, I'd love to get another voice from the audience, ask a question.
Desmond, I've really appreciated everything that you've shared about your work to date. I'm curious where you see opportunities for the future and your work.
Okay, I think I'll take that one and then I'll take the composting one. So in terms of opportunities, I think that at the moment we having the whole issue of climate change seems to still be emerging, because on a daily basis we are realizing that there are some forms of impact of climate change that we haven't really thought about it before, or it hasn't been well thought out. If I look at the past 2 COPs in Glasgow and in Sharm el-Sheikh, you realize that we went there, a significant portion of the conversations were around food security and nutrient availability. And that I find very connected with my work, which is around the composting, which is around improving soil biodiversity, which is around also diversifying how people even create income from whatever they are doing. So I see a lot of opportunities for young people in the food system sector. So in Ghana, we decided to start a Youth in Food fellowship program. And this Youth in Food fellowship program is a training that trains young people for a number of 6 weeks. And then during these 6 weeks, it's just about mentorship, it's just about ideation, it's about supporting young people to develop their ideas, but then having a number of agricultural-based organizations and companies coming to speak with these young people about what they are doing, in the hope that young people's mind will be open, or they will get that spark moment where they say, oh, I get it. This is what I have been wanting to do. I just couldn't figure it out. And then after those 6 weeks, we place these people in various companies. All the fellows are placed in various companies where they work with these fellows, these companies, and then try to understand, first to get work experience, because we have that challenge in Ghana where you need work experience of a certain number of distance before, but then also just to be in that atmosphere where you are able to think out loud and create your idea and bring it out. So I definitely see a sector that people can innovate, because last year the cohort, one of them is currently housed in Gayo, and she's been producing mushrooms. And now we are talking about producing mushroom juice, because some company approached her and pitched this whole cool idea of how they can produce mushroom juice, and it will be very good and portable and all that. So, and that's something that used not to be there. So people going into this agricultural aspect, I think there are opportunities that are far way outside from the traditional on the land farming kind of thing that we used to know. And then the other thing is, of course, also when you consider the broader aspect of the future of work, you're talking about technology. But we have this whole issue of people waiting for technology to be transitioned, and the entire understanding of it sometimes is premised around technologies developed in, say, Europe, or more those countries that have more capital and then deployed elsewhere in Africa, right? We have a number of young people who are sort of now innovating technology in different forms in Africa, which hopefully at some point can actually also be deployed elsewhere. So I think that's also another sector where people can sort of create some sort of income as young people, and still be able to gain a voice and influence the process. I think that there are probably more, as we are all here are engaged in different aspects, but these are the few I could mention. And then I saw that somebody asked about the compost that we are producing. Yes, so we sell the compost at the moment. We sell a lot to individual farmers. Because, to be honest, even with this, we are still not able to produce that much that it is that you can supply to very large scale farmers. But then the second aspect of this is also that there are some challenges. the challenges are that Ghana is a country, one of those countries that have fertilizer subsidy systems. So a lot of the farmers are under these government's fertilizer subsidy systems, and they work also as corporations. So when you produce enough, you can also try to pitch to the government and then hopefully get into that system where government then take the compost and supply to these large-scale farmers. But then at the moment, we are not able to break that barrier yet. So we sell to individuals.
Love to get a couple of questions from the Ghana side here. This is a great opportunity to learn from a really tremendous leader.
Yes, so I'll take an opportunity to ask Mr. Desmond, one of the great environmentalists in our country. I mean, his work is really being appreciated. About the opportunities or some opportunities Gaio has for we the youth this particular year. What sort of thematic areas we should be looking at?
Thank you. Thank you. So for this year, we still continue on the various thematic areas that we work on: climate, circular economy especially. And the Youth Climate Council is still rolling out a number of opportunities, hopefully in the coming months. What I would also say is that we're trying to do more on the tech aspect, or quote unquote, the so-called the green tech aspect. And these are just ideation stage. Then what I can say is clear opportunity is the fellowships that we organize. We are continuing to have more and more fellowships this year. The challenges that we had last year, including the challenge where we had a lot of people pitching their ideas, and then those who got awarded to initiate and implement their ideas, especially those who are in the production sector. We are going to continue that again. So very soon this will come out. We are also thinking of actually doing more and the competitions around people who are just who want to be incubated because their ideas are yet to be nurtured. So I would say keep an eye on our various platforms, and if you are in touch with any of us, yeah, hopefully you would see this coming out soon.
Yes, Mr. Desmond. I'm actually one of a beneficiary of your opportunities, the Advocacy Seed Funding Initiative. I was a 2022 winner. So yes, I received funding to help execute my project from Youth Climate Council. It was a nice experience.
That's great to know. That's great to know. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see somebody is asking the scale of production can be increased. Yes. So what is happening is that it depends on resources. That is the main thing. So it takes a while, because this is a project that started in 2018. And it took a while for it to run on its own. So that's the challenge with the waste management sector, because you have to invest a lot of money into educating homes about segregation at source, because you're going to depend on clean waste. If the waste is contaminated, it becomes difficult for you. But yeah, so if you get to sensitize more communities, then you get more waste and you can produce more. You sensitize very few, you have only a few households and market sources coming your way. I am so sorry that I may not be able to stay throughout the length of this because I somehow double booked this time after 5 in my time. So I'm late 18 minutes to another meeting, which is not professional, but it's really been a pleasure being with you people.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thanks for joining and sharing. And also just really grateful for the partnership to keep this project going, and look forward to future collaboration for sure. And hopefully seeing you in Accra in June or July.
Yes, hopefully see you soon. Yeah, and all the best with the rest of the program.
All right, take care. Have a good afternoon, good evening. All right, folks.
You too.
So we'll wind down the session. I'm going to share my screen now. I just wanted to kind of just emphasize a couple of the points for what we're trying to do here with these 5 sessions, right? So what hopefully is becoming clear is we're trying to construct this arc of understanding some challenges, understanding the issues that are happening, and then we're going to apply a lens of eco-entrepreneurship to address them. And so, of course, one of the biggest things that we ought to be spending a fair amount of time on right now is really starting to understand these challenges, because we want to solve problems that are real, problems that are authentic, and problems that speak to needs for both people and planet. And so all of this is hopefully giving you this early stage context. So as you look through the videos and the readings, hopefully this sparks some insight. And so what I would also encourage you to do is maybe dig a little bit deeper. If you find a topic that you want to learn more about, whether it's composting or things like that, or e-waste, or agriculture, or mining, or advocacy, there's lots of lenses that we can apply to our solutions, but we really want to first have a good sense of what are those challenges. We'll start pivoting next week to think about eco-entrepreneurship and innovation, and really what is a business and what is a sustainable model for businesses. And again, this is to help everybody feel like they are prepared to think about projects. And so all this will be kind of this compressed five-week training to give you all the basics. And then from there, we'll start thinking about what do we actually want to do to start making a difference? What are the actions that we can take, and what's reasonable, and what's attainable, and what will actually move the needle to make things different and improve some of the challenges that we face. And as we move towards the end of this, we'll start trying to put this together to very specific actions that we'll take. And the great thing about entrepreneurship is that it can solve a couple of different challenges. One, when you sort of combine it with eco or ecological issues, you can solve that environmental challenge. But we all know that businesses and enterprises can be really good for communities, because they can help provide jobs, they can help provide income, and they can help provide sources of stability within communities. And the things that we see is that government action can only go so far. There's lots of great government initiatives at the national level, the local level, and the international levels, but the vast majority of civic space is actually kind of outside of what the government's doing. And so we chose eco-entrepreneurship as a way for everyday people to get involved in some of these changes. And we see that there's so much potential that hopefully you'll also catch on as you look through some of the readings in the videos. But I wanted to pause and ask if anybody has any questions about kind of the training, the syllabus, what we're hoping to achieve, or how all these pieces come together. Any comments or questions? Well, sounds like everybody, or hopefully everybody is feeling like this all is pretty clear, which is great. If there are any questions, anything that you need clarity on, please let me know. And we will be happy to give further clarity. What slide in particular?
The ones with the links and everything, and just the overview, and like, just to make sure that I don't forget Desmond and his name, just so we have so when we're going through this, we can look back and see who was speaking, and just kind of an overview of, and it had looked like it had links for videos and previous projects.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think I thought I had sent that out, but if I have not, I apologize for that. So
it's possible I could have missed it, but I have not seen that.
All right, I'll make sure everybody has a copy of it. So yeah. But yeah, thanks for the reminder on that. I just dropped in the chat. I'll also email it to everybody. And yeah, what we're really hoping at the end of this is that people feel really prepared to define a problem they want to solve, think about an intervention that will solve it, and then work collaboratively with teams to make that difference. So just be thinking about that broader context over the next 5 weeks. Any closing comments or questions before we wind down? All right, well, I'll share the video in case you want to refer back to it. And then we will see you in 1 week, same time, to start talking a little bit more about entrepreneurship.